All right, new intro. It's kind of stupid. It was really actually put together pretty quickly. Because look, the Red Wings are on a hot streak. Cindy's on the phone. Again, we don't know where she is. She's, a very particular person. She could be at Jimmy Carter's funeral today. Who knows? Be
You
in
never know. I'm a woman of mystery, Joe. I could be
she,
anywhere. I'm
she
like
could be in
007.
Alaska. She could be at the college football playoff tonight. Whatever happens, happens. There's a lot of things going, but the Red Wings are hot right now. And Cindy, I think last podcast we talked about it. And I was sitting here, I put a video out there. I said, man, this Red Wings team is playing at the top of their game. Like I couldn't really explain how good they were doing. So I looked up the statistics and I was pretty floored at what I saw, to be honest. These are the statistics of what they've done since he said play some effing hockey. They're averaging 4.2 goals for, 2.4 goals against. They're 5-0. Their power play is 56.3%, and their penalty kill, which was the big bugaboo about this team, 75%. I mean, I really don't think you can get any better than that. That's them, 75% on a penalty kill. I mean, a couple months ago we would have killed for 60%, and they're at 75%. I just look at it like this, Cindy. I mean, me and you have talked about it plenty of times here on the podcast and all that jazz. But I'm really impressed by the way that this team is playing under Todd McLennan. And I gotta be totally, completely honest with the people. A guy like Joe Valeno is is really turning into a good player under Todd McLennan. And I gotta tell you, I didn't expect that. And he's pushing all the right buttons and everything I asked for as a fan of this team. Whether it was just mix up the lines, give me something new. Make sure that this team is on their p's and q's. Be more aggressive. We've been talking about this forever. Be more aggressive, and they're more aggressive. They're shooting the puck more. I think they've only been outshot twice in this whole thing, but I think they tied last game, so that really didn't count. So they didn't outshoot the Ottawa Senators, but it just feels like they're playing a totally different hockey in terms of the way Todd McLennan's preaching to this team, and I can't be more excited about where this team is going. To be honest.
Well, it's like we talked about, and we talked about many times in the past. It's all about it's a head game, right? I mean, you've got to change the way you think about the game. And Todd McClellan has done that with these guys. He has changed the most important 6 inches involved here, and that's the 6 inches between their ears. And their mindset has changed. And if you'll remember, Joe, I also said, and we're seeing this come to fruition now, is that once that mindset changes and once there is a matter of believing in yourself, that confidence is so critical. They talk about it all the time because it plays into that mind game. So now that they've got all those things firing on all cylinders, what you're seeing offensive players play much more defensively. And I think because you've seen a very have they been aggressive on offense? Absolutely, but they've also been incredibly aggressive on defense. You've seen guys making diving plays. You've seen them really pouring on the heat when they need to, go into puck battles and stuff like this. I mean, you've seen guys playing just really, really strong defensive hockey, making sure to keep the puck out of their zone. And, they're winning neutral zone battles. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that they're doing that are just very, very defensive posture that they're taking, and you see that in the penalty kill, right? I mean, they've gotten so much more aggressive even on the penalty kill and so much more defensively minded on PK, and you've seen that make a huge difference for them. So, as I said, as soon as they get that shift in place, you're going to see offensive players playing defensively. And so, where people were saying you need defense, we need defense, we need defense, I think too many people thought, oh, we need to switch out defensemen. Oh, we don't have enough talent on defense. And I'm not saying there isn't improvements to be made, but what I am saying is now you've got every player on that team contributing to the defense. And you also have your offensive players playing their game. They're going for the net. They're taking shots on net, as you pointed out. Look how many more shots on goal we've got. That is indicative. The more you shoot at the I mean, this does not take, it's not rocket science, Joe. It doesn't take a genius, okay? Anybody can, even me, can figure this out. It's a numbers game. The more shots you take, the more are going to go in, statistically speaking. So they're doing all of those things, but the reason why you're seeing this kind of production and this kind of change on the ice, I will say, and I'll stand by it, it's because of the change that's been made in the mindset of this team.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it like this way. Like we've heard Dylan Larkin. Dylan Larkin said something the other day that he was excited. There's a breath of fresh air after the Winnipeg game. And then yesterday, Marco Casper said this. Well, it was today. He said, "I think the vibes are really good in the locker room right now." And look, no matter how you slice it, I mean, to have the guys that are playing the way that they're playing, I think anytime you play good, you're good. The vibes are going to be high, obviously, and I want to see what happens when they do, get a loss under them, obviously, or a losing streak, and see what happens after that. But I just think that right now, the way Todd McLennan's got this thing rolling, I think that they're totally their mindset is completely different than it was a couple games ago. Before the Christmas break, that watching that St. Louis Blues game and watching them get shelled at home is just disgusting. And I've seen people that have gone to the Detroit Red Wings games lately, and they say the vibe with the fans is totally different. And you know what? When your team you just hit on something. I want to preface it, but a lot of you said the more you shoot, the more you're going to have chances, and I totally agree. I never understood the whole thinking behind Derek Lalonde with this. Let's try to find the perfect shot. Well, what if you don't find the perfect shot, and what if you don't take that shot that ends up going off someone's ass or going off a stick or doing something along those lines? Like, just take the shot. You never know where the puck is going to go. It's one of those weird things in hockey where if you just take a shot, maybe you don't have the most perfect angle, but maybe you get a shot on that like deflects off a skate or a puck, a stick or a glove. You never know. You just have to kind of get it in there, and if you do, it might end up in the other opposing net.
Well, that's the thing is you've got to make those opportunities for puck luck. Puck
Yeah.
luck doesn't just happen, but it is a real thing. And the more opportunities you can create and the more you can create the environment for that puck luck to happen, the more likely it's going to happen. How about that, Joe? Wouldn't you know it? You got to do something to make your own good luck. And I think they've done that. They've created those opportunities. So I don't understand the whole wait for the perfect shot either. How rare is it that those things come along? Seriously, how rare is it? This doesn't happen. So it's not, it's my good friend, my dear friend Darren McCarty says it's progress, not perfection, right? You've got to just continue to make progress and you've got to give yourself the opportunity for that progress. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh because a lot of people will be like, "Oh, the reason for trying to find the perfect shot is your passing has to be on point." Well, look, every given game has different circumstances, and sometimes your passing is not on point. So if your passing is not on point, where does it lead you? It doesn't lead you anywhere, and it's kind of like you gotta get shots on the net. You gotta make sure you get some good chances at the opposing goaltender. Get him a little rattled, and you'll be fine. And if you talk to Darren anytime soon, I mean, you talk to anyone who's played professional hockey, they say just get a puck on net. Like you never know what could happen, and that's kind of what I think Todd McLennan's preaching because they're shooting from everywhere right now, and I'm very, very excited about that because Larkin's playing good, Raymond's playing good, Patrick Kane has turned it back on. He's now Showtime. He once was the matinee Patrick Kane. Now he's the Showtime Patrick Kane, which it's good to see him back because for a while he wasn't playing his best hockey, and he was kind of a dud to be honest. And a lot of people are being like, "Why do we re-sign this guy?" Well, I hope they can get Tarasenko going pretty soon. That'd be amazing too.
Well, as good as these guys are, these veterans need to be inspired just as much as the rookies do, or
Yeah,
these younger dudes.
you gotta play
And
for
the fact of
something.
the absolutely, and they weren't being inspired to play at all. It was interesting because I heard, and you're probably going to know because I think it's a football reference, or it's a basketball reference or something. But anyway, a very prominent coach one time said you have to be realistic about what you're managing here. You're not managing, and I know this was basketball because he said 12. You're not managing 12 guys. You're managing 12 corporations, because every one of these guys is a multimillionaire and they're making multimillionaire decisions outside of here in their regular daily life. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand that. And I think that the problem with the prior coaching was that Derek Lalone did not have that perspective on these guys. And I think Todd McClellan has a lot more respect for that and is a
Yeah.
lot more realistic and pragmatic in his approach to how you need to coach these guys, what it's going to take to inspire them. Because I guarantee you, the things that are going to activate Patrick Kane are completely different than the things that are going to activate Marco Casper.
Oh,
Okay,
oh, for sure.
and you cannot coach them the same way, you can't treat them the same way or look at them the same way. And I think that one of the reasons perhaps that Patrick Kane was not Showtime is because he was being asked to be someone he's not. He was being asked to play a game that wasn't his game. And
Right.
now this coach is going to allow Patrick Kane to be Patrick Kane. And as soon as they key into that for Tarasenko, you're going to see, I think, the same transition. And then you're going to see some of these other guys, seeing some possibilities for themselves given where they're at in their career. But when it comes to the veterans, I just have I have a very strong understanding that what they were being asked to do is not who they were, and it wasn't working. So now you're seeing a guy who understands that, has made adjustments, and look at this, bingo bango, right?
Yeah.
My Mickey Redmond, bingo bango, right? Now you've got it. Now you're seeing the magic happen, and you're seeing them be able to showcase their talent because they're being inspired to do so the right way for them.
Yeah, and just a couple news and notes. This is obviously news. Jeff Petrie is placed on IR. That's retroactive to January 2nd. So that's
Yeah.
that's pretty long time. But Ville Husso is recalled to Detroit, and me and you we've talked about Ville Husso for a while. I mean, the reality of the situation is he needs to start getting his act together, because they got a bunched up goaltending. Obviously, I think Husso's on the last year of his deal. Lyons on the last year of his deal. I think Cam Talbot has another year left. But when you look at this roster of goaltenders, I mean, obviously Sebastian Costa is going to be banging down the door anytime soon. I mean, I would be shocked if he's not up here in the next year and a half or something along those lines. Maybe even next year, or maybe even by the end of the year. You never know. Especially the way Steve Eisman could be wheeling and dealing and trying to recoup some draft picks or something along those lines when a team needs a goaltender, because we all know we're going to get into February and all these teams are going to be someone's goalie is going to get hurt. They're going to be in the playoff position. They're going to be like, I need a goaltender. And, Eisenman's got a goaltender that he can go to if he feels that he can count on Sebastian Costa if there's an injury, or he feels Sebastian Costa is ready, he can make that deal. And maybe it's Lyon, maybe it's Talbot, maybe it's Husso. You never really know who the team wants, but I just look at it like that. Like this would be a great shot for Husso to kind of reclaim who he was. I think he's been kind of staggering back and forth of where he's going to be going and such. And I think that it's going to be very, very interesting for this team moving forward.
Yeah, I think they don't have much of a choice but to activate Ville Husso right now, and I'm hoping that this will help reinvigorate him as well because we are going to need these guys, going into the postseason. We're going to need everything that we can possibly get, and we're going to have backups in case of injury. So I'm really glad that they're bringing Husso back for that reason, to get him, back into the swing of the big show, and have him be prepared should he be called upon, especially in the postseason. So I think the history, or excuse me, the future of the Detroit Red Wings goaltenders is Sebastian Cossa and Trey Augustine. I mean, Trey Augustine's been absolutely outstanding at Worlds, and so I think those two guys are going to be. If there's a future Stanley Cup tandem anywhere, I think it's Cossa and Augustine. Tremendous, I mean, such tremendous talent, but you got to wait. We got to wait, and you got to be
Mhm.
patient because they have to develop, and they're not there yet. So,
Yep.
if this is what we got to do to get by, kind of this, I feel like we're on this like goalie merry-go-round. So you get on, you get off. But if that's what we've got to do for right now, that's fine while we're waiting for this because these two guys are superstars coming up. I mean, you got you got a really tremendous amount of talent there. I mean, you think Shesterkin's good, and some of these other guys, that are like, oh, they're some of the best goaltenders of all time. I think you probably have two of them who could very well be Hall of Fame goaltenders in the future, in Trey Augustine and Sebastian Cossa.
Yeah, I think with Sebastian Cossa, you're going to get a guy who's he's a big goaltender. Obviously he's a first round pick, so he's obviously got some, he's got some hope to him. Trey Augustine, I mean, we see him at Michigan State, we see him at Worlds. This kid is just, I think he's a smaller goalie in stature, but the way I look at him, Cindy, and I think this is the biggest thing that you could talk about with goaltenders. What do you do when everything goes wrong? And what do you do when things are, you're in a tough spot, right? Going to Worlds is not easy. It's a very hard tournament. Playing in the NCAA tournament is not easy. He did that his freshman year. He won the Big Ten tournament for Michigan State. I like that clutch nature of him. And when I watch him with Michigan State, the one thing that I come away with is this kid, when you ask him to shut down the game, he shuts down the game. I think that's the most important thing about Trey Augustine. When people look at him in the future, like, he's got that more clutch gene. And I kind of compare it to Chris Osgood, because
I was about to say that.
Ozzy was a championship level goalie. Yeah. Was he the biggest goalie? No. Ozzy was a smaller guy. But what he did was, when the things, he was stable in that, you knew what to expect. He wasn't going to wow you with some Dominic Hasek save or anything like that, but he was going to do what he was supposed to do. Augustine's like a step above that, I believe, because I think Augustine, the way he's been doing things in terms of at Michigan State, getting better and better and better. I just think that they have the trajectory for this kid is sky high. But just what I see right now, it's like an Osgood type guy where in the playoffs you can count on this guy not to get frazzled. That's the main thing. I think when you talk about goalies or kickers or closing pitchers, relieving pitchers in baseball, you talk about how big of a head case can they be?
The thing is, you need them to be pressure players. These guys have to be your pressure players. And one thing about Ozzy, and I've witnessed this firsthand, and be in the room with him or whatever, and it's his ability to hyper focus. Like, he can be yucking it up 1 minute. I mean, he's got a tremendous sense of humor. The guy's hilarious. He really is very funny. He was the jokester on the team, prankster, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's how he let off steam. And he's just like an 8-year-old boy in a grown man's body, right? I mean, he just really enjoys having fun with the guys and stuff. And he's very much that person. But man, when he turns it on and he gets that hyper focus, it's almost freaky how fast he can do it and how intensely he focuses. And I've experienced it myself firsthand. I've seen it. And Trey Augustine is like that. I don't know what Trey Augustine is like outside of the rink, but what I do know is I have seen that hyper focus that Ozzy has, and just that almost like his body almost takes over in a very mechanical kind of way. Like, you can tell this guy isn't getting, it's all like pre-programmed. The muscle memory, they're just more so, it's just a certain way that they are with that hyper focused ability. And it's kind of one of the things that makes goalies a little weird. I mean, they're just a little strange like that, but it's because it's a little freaky, but it's fascinating at the same time. And it's what makes them so damn good when they have the ability to do that. And it's funny you should have said that, because I was thinking the whole time, yet when I see Trey Augustine, I see Chris Osgood, who, by the way, just want to put my 2 cents in. It is absolutely a crying shame that Chris Osgood is not in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I totally agreed.
He absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame. Not that Mike Vernon wasn't deserving of it. I'm not saying that, but far and away, Chris Osgood has more than earned his place in the Hall of Fame, and I can't wait for the day we see him there. So,
yeah, he totally deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And like I said with Augustine, like you usually know with goalies right away whether they're a pressure goalie or they're not a guy that can take pressure. Like, I always thought, like, for a little bit, like, there's a guy like Luongo, right? Oh, he was always good in the regular season. He's a fantastic human being, funny as hell too. He's funny as hell on Twitter. and everything like that. He actually works for the Florida Panthers now, but um, it didn't seem like he was a guy that in the playoffs. Like it seemed like he kind of fell apart. His regular seasons would be great. It'd be fall apart in the playoffs. Guys like Chris Osgood, Jonathan Quick, you know, Vasilevsky, like you see those guys, Sergei Bobrovsky. I mean, that guy's like he's like the extreme example of a playoff guy because he turns into like some Russian like oligarch where he's just he can't stop. You can't score nothing on this guy, and it's just like, man, it's crazy. But this goalie tandem is going to be pretty good. And I look at Ville Husso and I look at Lyon and Talbot. They're kind of like they're going to get us to they're bridge guys. That's what I feel about it. And I think Coast is going to be here next year, and I think Trey Augustine could be here next 2 years, depending on when he leaves Michigan State.
I kind of thought for a minute that you were talking about Sam Darnold. I thought you thought for a minute you were on. We were talking about guys who aren't pressure players, or are they
That's another guy that's not a pressure player. I could tell you that.
Right on.
Man. But we'll take it because every team in the state right now is undefeated in 2025. So knock on wood, every team in the state's undefeated right now in 2025. So we are going to keep the goodwill, and we're going to hope for better things in 2025. Because I tell you what, we've dealt with enough losing. There's been enough losing, and obviously, I coined Todd McLennan, the Todd Father. That's his new nickname, Cindy. The Todd Father, because he has renewed my faith in the Detroit Red Wings as a whole, and renewed my faith in the Yzer plan, which was kind of weighing a little bit because I was like, "Hey, Stevie, I don't know what you're doing with this bald guy. It looks like Hans Gruber, but it's time to get a move on." But now we got Todd McLennan.
I love it.
He's got a beautiful salad on top of his head. He's doing a damn good job coaching this team, and it's just amazing to hear this team just do a total 180. I want to put this stat up here again because there's people that just are tuning in. But 5-0, 420 goals against. Goals for, goals against 2.4, 56.3% on the power play, 75% on the penalty kill. I couldn't have asked for like a better situation for this team because they're playing outstanding. And it kind of brings me to my next point, because if you look at the standings right now, the Red Wings are 4 points away from the top wild card. They're 2 points away from the second wild card. I think it's definitely in reach. I don't know about you, Cindy, but you look at the math and it's pretty good for the Red Wings. I think they have a really good shot, and they're 500 for the first time in ever how long it was. It seems like so long we've been under 500. So this is just good to hear.
Here's what's got me encouraged about this. And if you keep this up, Joe, that'd be great, because I'm going to talk about this. Because, here's what's encouraging about these standings, okay? If you'll notice, you've got you got 2 games in hand against Pittsburgh, and you got a game in hand against Columbus. So, and then everybody else, you're kind of equal. Tampa Bay, I'll tell you, here's what's going to happen with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to take themselves out of the wild card spot, and they're going to catapult themselves up into the top 3. And what you're going to see is, I believe you're going to see the Bruins falling, because the Bruins, because the Bruins have, they've got I think we got 3 games in hand on them. So, and not just us, but Montreal and Ottawa and all the other contenders. Okay.
Yep.
So I think that's what's going to happen. So you're going to see the Bruins falling out. You're going to see Tampa Bay moving up, and in that, Joe, is going to open up just numerically an opportunity for the Red Wings. And we have a tremendous opportunity. And I know you wanted to talk about expectations here at some point also in the show. And we have a tremendous opportunity here in the next 3 games. So out of the 6 games we got coming up, the next 3 games, okay, we have a tremendous opportunity, because my expectation and what I hope to see is the Red Wings winning those next 3 games. Now, that would be great. Can they stay on the heater? They got Seattle, they've got the Blackhawks, and they have San Jose. All of them are pretty much at the bottom of the standings. So you've got a tremendous opportunity there from 3 clubs. The other thing I like about these 3 clubs, they're all Western Conference. Why do I like that? The reason I like that is because Todd McLellan has said one of the things he has to adjust to, being in the East, he's not familiar with the East Conference teams, but he is very familiar with the Western Conference teams. So these are three teams. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for pivoting for me. Uh, these are three teams that, number one, are struggling. Number two, we now have a coach who knows these teams better than the other coach that we had. Okay.
Yeah, for
He
sure.
knows these teams, and the fact that we're riding the wave of confidence and we've got momentum on our side. So those three things create a tremendous opportunity for us to really capture some serious points and get within very, very close striking distance of the wild card, if not squeak into the wild card. Here's my concern, though. The next three games after that, and the next three are going to be tough, tough, tough. You've got Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Dallas. So those two Florida teams, I think, are going to be very tough. They're very good clubs. And so I think there's a very good chance, Joe, that if we see any losses, and we're going to have losses, not all right, all good things come to an end, right? I think that out of the next 6 games, I almost expect 3-3 because I think they're probably going to lose one of the next 3, even though they should take them all. I think
Yeah.
just I think they're going to lose one of them. I think they're going to lose. They're going to go 2-1 in the next 3, but then after that, they're going to go 1-2. I think they're probably going to lose to the Panthers. They're probably going to lose to Tampa Bay, but I do expect them to beat Dallas. So, 500 out of the next 6 games though is only going to allow us to keep pace. We got to do better than that. My hope is that it's a 4-2 situation. I think that'll put us in a very good spot.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of gonna insinuate. So you look at their schedule and you go, okay, well, they got the Chicago Blackhawks on Friday. Are the Chicago Blackhawks a good team? Not really. So you go to the Kraken. The Kraken are a pretty damn good team. Their talent is better than their record, in my opinion. So you kind of got to treat them with caution because they're a team that can sneak up on you. Matthew Beniers is a damn good player. They got some good players on that roster. I think they could sneak up on you for sure. Because I look at them in the standings right now, and it's like the last time I looked at them, they weren't doing really good in the Western Conference. I'm looking it up right now. The Seattle Kraken are 7th in their conference in the wild card. So they're just ahead of the Nashville Predators, the San Jose Sharks, and the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
And then you look at the San Jose Sharks. Obviously, the San Jose Sharks are in a rebuild, so you gotta move forward. But I look at this schedule with the 4 road games because those are in white, and I look at those 4 road games. Florida, that's a national televised game. I think you can get up for that game. That's a game that I think the Red Wings could sneak up and win that game. To be honest, I look at Tampa Bay. That's another game that could be a game that they could go back and try to win that game. But you got 4 games on the road. This is the first time that they're really going to go on a road trip with Todd McLennan. So I'm very interested to see how they do it there. And the Philadelphia Flyers, they're just behind you in the wild card. They have 39 points. You have 40 points. So if I'm going to be honest, that is a huge game for your playoff position. If you're trying to look at the playoffs and you're saying, how do I stack up? You got 2 games in a row where they're big playoff games. You got the Flyers and the Canadians because the Canadians are right ahead of you with 41 points. So it's crucial to get the points that you need to get in terms of not giving them an overtime point or letting them win the game or something like that. And then you look at the end of it. Tampa Bay and LA, which he's really familiar with the LA team, so I like that matchup. And then you go on to the West Coast and you go play the Edmonton Oilers, which is always tough. You go and then you take that Western Canadian trip where you go to Calgary, Vancouver, and the Kraken, and then you got the Tampa Bay Lightning before that. That 4 Nations tournament in February. So it's a big time for this Red Wings team because I got to be honest, Cindy, if they can hold serve right now, I will be very, very excited about this team. And the expectations for this team is there for the taking, but they need to really do what they can to get some points here, especially against the teams that they're going against right now. like I said, the Kraken game is going to be an interesting game because the Kraken are a more talented team than they've shown. But a team like San Jose and Chicago, you got to win those games. You just have to win those games. And if you don't win those games, then you got to go steal a game against Tampa Bay or Florida or Dallas, and you have to do it. You have to steal 2 of them, I would think, because going down the line, I think 4-2 would be ideal. I mean, obviously, you would love to go win another 5 games in a row. That'd be amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
But you got to live in reality. I think a lot of people are like high on the supply right now. It's kind of like Lions fans when they were on their winning streak. They're on that 11-game winning streak, and then they ran to Buffalo, and it kind of set them back into reality. And you do a reality check, and you go, okay, what do we got to improve on? And then you move on from there. But I do like the way that this team is playing. I think the expectations should be high.
Absolutely, for sure they should be, and I think they are, because people are beginning to believe, just like the players are beginning to believe. The fans are ready and about to believe that this is real, and so these next 3 games, I think are just a golden opportunity. It's just a golden. Are they make or breaks? No, but they are absolutely golden opportunities, and it will be sad if we lose an opportunity to make up some ground that we've lost. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hoping that they're able to extend the stretch at least 3 more games, and then, quite frankly, if you run into Florida, you run into Tampa Bay, and you suffer a loss, you got everybody's going to go, well, come on, look, they're a tough team, but I'll tell you, the Red Wings have played so well against these great teams. I mean, come on, how much of a confidence booster do you need? You beat Winnipeg. You beat some of the best teams in the league in the last 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hope that they don't. Here's the thing with this golden opportunity coming in these next 3 games, the fact that you're going to be taking on, I would say, inferior teams, or teams that at least have inferior records to yours right now, with the exception of, I think, Seattle might be par with us, but the other 2 are certainly below us in the standings in their own conference. But they can't take it for granted. I hope they don't take the foot off the gas. I hope they don't change anything except to get better. I hope that they take these teams as seriously as they took Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And because if they don't, they can go in with an overconfidence, or perhaps, again, taking it for granted, not taking these teams seriously. I'm with you. You got to take them seriously. Not one of them. The Red Wings are not in a position where they have the luxury of taking anything for granted. Not one game from here on out,
No.
because they were, just are getting out of a train wreck. So they cannot take anything for granted. They got to take every single game seriously. And so if they do that and they continue to implement what the Todd Father, which, by the way, I love that, the Todd Father, if they continue to implement what he's begun, then I think they're going to have continued success. So, but I would just give you that word of caution of one of the concerns that I have about these next 3. After that, we walk out of here 4-2, and you're right. And then they have 2 conference division matchups after that, and those are so critical because they're division matchups. We heard Dan Campbell talk about one of the first things he says, no matter how significant the victory was or how slim the victory was, when they were playing a divisional team, he was like, that's the division team. That's a division team. The first thing he'd say in the locker room victory, conversations or whatever, his little rah-rah speeches, his victory speeches in the locker room, always made sure to point out when it was a division win, because they are so, so important. So that's another reason why I hope the Wings have a sustained victory, or at least come out of this with a solid 4-2 out of these next 6 games, because then they're going up against in division games, and they got to have the confidence riding high when they go in there, because the reality is, as you pointed out, the stakes are much higher actually for those 2 games than they are for these other ones.
Yeah, the Flyers Flyers are in the Metro, but it's for the wild card, so that's a big one.
Right.
Obviously in the same conference, but these divisional games, you got the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, and the Montreal Canadiens. Those games are huge, and obviously you're trying to put together a streak, and you're trying to show people that trying to instill confidence. So if you can go to Florida and win, or Tampa Bay and win, and kind of steal those games, because let's be honest, I mean, the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning are going to think that you're coming into their house. They want to protect their rink, so you're going to have to go in there and steal some games. And if they did, it'd be very impressive for the Red Wings because, I mean, I don't know about you, Cindy, but the game Saturday was the most impressive victory that they've had as of late because they won 4-2 over the Winnipeg Jets, and the Winnipeg Jets are one of the best teams in the league, especially in the Western Conference. We went over this before in the last podcast. We were like, if you can go into Winnipeg and do something, that'd be pretty good, But for them to go into Winnipeg and do what they did, win 4-2, and then Ottawa, that's a divisional game, like you said, that's a huge game, and they won that game. So it's impressive the way that they're playing, and I think the expectations moving forward, like whether we want to admit it or not, everyone should have the expectation that they can make the playoffs. And I think that moving down the line as we go into February, because February is next month, the expectation and the end goal is playoffs. That's my opinion.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I don't think there's anyone right now who's not thinking that, whose expectations are any different than that. I think that because the Wings have shown what they're capable of. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like people had amnesia about that for a minute. They had forgotten what they were capable of. But now that everybody is reminded of it, they're like, well, yeah, of course they should make the playoffs. Of course they should. And I'll tell you, I have been at games at both Sunrise Arena and or in Sunrise where the Panthers play. There's some of my buddies. They love me down there. Have always treated me good.
They
So I
do
got a
love you
soft
down
spot
there.
for them. They do, and God bless them. I love that team too. They're great people down there. And I've been at Amalie Arena, and I can tell you, Amalie Arena is a tough rink to play in. It is a tough environment. And that is just by the way, tickets there are outrageously expensive. It's just insane. It's like it rivals the Leafs. I mean, it's nuts. And
they've had some good
I've
teams,
been in
that's why, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough rink to play in, and so I understand the challenges rolling into Tampa Bay, but maybe they'll do something against my Panthers. Maybe I don't know, but I'm a hometown kid, so I'm true red all the way. I'm not blue. I'm true red all the way through. So I would anticipate that they'll be able to sneak one of those away, and like you said, they're divisional games too. So really critical. I think Tampa Bay is going to be tough. That's the one that I fully expect a loss on. If they don't, if they hand us a win, I will be ecstatic about that. But
Yep.
I do expect a loss there. But yeah, my expectations, like everyone else, playoffs all the way.
Yeah, I think I was reading something from Max Boltman. He's talking about draft picks, and I'm like, please don't talk about draft picks. We've had enough of those draft picks, and I was amazed at how some people are changing their tune about, is this a playoff team? Is this not a playoff team? I think this should be a playoff team the way that they're playing right now. And obviously Steve Yzerman said that in his press conference. He said he expects them to compete for the wild card, and that's exactly what you're trying to do. And I like the way Simon Edmondson's playing. I like the way Seider's playing, and I think that going forward, I think if the guys continue to play the way they are, I think it leads to our next topic, Cindy, because this is going to be the most interesting time when we get to that time, the trade deadline, because there is already news and notes about the Red Wings being involved in a trade with Buffalo. One of the guys was Dylan Cousins, and Elliot Friedman reported that on the Sportsnet, which is a big time publication in Canada. So obviously they know a little bit. He heard there were some things with the Red Wings and Dylan Cousins, but Max Boltman of the Athletic, he said that he's not reporting it or nothing, but he threw out a hypothetical trade of the Red Wings trading for Elias Pettersson, which I think is totally out of bounds because I think that's not going to happen. But the Canucks are in like this weird situation where Pettersson seems like he's pissed off, or JT Miller. They got a revolving door of pissed off players. I don't know what it is with the Canucks. I mean, every time I hear something from the Canucks, I'm like, well, that's new. That's definitely new right there. It's usually another pissed off player, and the Canadian media, they love to hype up the hysteria between the players and the media and the team, and it's just the way the Canadian market is. But those are two trades.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
You know what my opinion is on these Canadians right now? They got bigger problems over there. Their prime minister, they're in a good place. Believe me, they got rid of one of their big problems, which was Trudeau. But they got bigger problems over there. They got a nightmare of problems. They need to focus on that. Leave the hockey to us, and just concentrate on your own problems.
Well, the Canadians, they never focus. They still want their hockey. We know that with the Maple Leafs.
Well,
they're psychos, but it is what it is.
Dude, is somebody going to tell these Canadians that hockey started in Michigan? I mean, is somebody going to enlighten them one of these days? I mean, come on now.
I mean, it's funny, right? It's funny because like we share so much in common. Michigan and the whole the whole country of Canada. We share something in common with those guys. We share a damn bridge that's named after Gordie Howe, which is one of the best Canadian players of all time. And it's just like, but the Canadians, they love I don't know what it is, Cindy, because I can kind of clue it in with the New York market in terms of our, United States market, where they're always on the Yankees, or they're always saying the Giants or the Jets suck, which is awesome. I love hearing that. It's great stuff. But the Canadian market, I don't know, they always hype up the Leafs and the Canadians and the Canucks and the Oilers, and they're always like, and then when things go wrong, they're their first time, they're like, this is not good. There's trouble in the locker room, and it's like, man, oh man, like I would hate to be a Canadian player, and you see, there's a lot of Canadian players that can't take the media, man. They really can't. So they go to teams like the Rangers, or they go to teams like the Red Wings or the Blackhawks, or in Florida, because they don't want to deal with the media. The media is so just ridiculous up there that they're just like, I can go somewhere else, play hockey, and not have to worry about the media. That's what I would say.
Hey, all I have to say is to my Canadian friends is, when was the last time one of your teams won a Stanley Cup? When was the last year of that? Right. So, save it, my friends, save it. We love you guys, but come on, let's be realistic about this. Yeah, a little friendly competition, but
they gotta. That's a very sore subject you just brought up to the Canadian public. So,
rip the Band-Aid off, Joe. Let them have it. No, but so here's my take on these potential trades, and the thing is that I think the most important thing, regardless of what gets done here, is that now that the Wings have begun to get a sense of an identity, and I'm hoping that the Todd father has begun to create that culture and sense of identity. And I feel that he has. I haven't gotten any direct intel on that, but I sense that he probably has. And what's the most important thing is the same thing that Dan Campbell looked for as he was rebuilding the Lions, and the same thing that that whole team was looking for, and that is that whoever they trade for, don't chase the talent. You got to chase the culture. So you got to bring somebody on who is got buy-in, who is on board with your culture, on board with your identity, and wants to contribute to that. Because if you don't get a guy like that, it doesn't matter what kind of talent he's got, because he won't be all in. And you're going to have somebody come here who's all in. I don't want a guy that's just escaping the situation he's in right now because he doesn't like his coach, or he doesn't like his teammates, or he doesn't like his GM, or he doesn't like his ownership, or whatever, doesn't like the city he's in. It can't be somebody who's trying to get away from something. It's got to be somebody who's looking to be part of something. And there's a tremendous difference there. And so, and what they have to be wanting to be a part of is they got to be wanting to be part of what the Red Wings have identified themselves to be, and what they have, defined their culture to be. And that's been an ongoing challenge for them. So hopefully those things have gotten started to get themselves resolved. And when Steve brings in any new personnel, and I don't care where they're at in the organization, I don't care if they're on the ice, I don't care if they're in the front office, I don't care if they're selling popcorn and beer, I don't care what they're doing, but whoever you bring in has got to be somebody who buys into your culture and is coming here to contribute to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, just the way you said it, I think that's the most important thing. I think that's what Stevie Eiserman would think about too, because right now the vibes are high in Hockey Town with Casper saying, the vibes are really good in the locker room right now, and you're hoping that stays the same because if you can get a couple guys in there that will do a good job and everything, you'll be in a good situation. But this whole trade for Dylan Cousins, it's been percolating. Bob Duff, he reported that it's not going to happen, and then Elliot Friedman throws the grenade back in the hole and says there's been talks, and we'll see what happens. And that was in his 32 thoughts column. But I mean, it's funny that the Red Wings are being mentioned in trades with the Buffalo Sabres. That's pretty rich. But I wonder what it would take to get Dylan Cousins. That's what I would kind of profess. But I don't know what
Steve's going to bring in.
I don't know what
Steve's going to bring in whoever can get him where he wants to go.
I think Stevie's going to try to bring in a second center, but I was very intrigued because if you look at this was the lines today, and I'll put it up on the full screen so people could see. But the lines were Casper, Larkin, and Raymond, which is interesting. Casper on the first line with Larkin, that's an interesting one. DeBrincat, Kopp, and Kane, that's a decent line. Obviously you would like a better center in the middle of Kane and DeBrincat, but whatever. And then you got Berggren, Comfort, Tarasenko, Rasmussen, Veleno, Mott, and Fisher at that wing spot. Sherratt, Seider, Edvinsson, Johansson. So you get a little glimpse of the youth right there, that Edvinsson, Johansson line. And then Gustafsson and Hall, because obviously Petrie is on the IR right now, and Talbot and Husso are the goalies in practice. So that is an interesting one right there, because obviously you think about this, it'd be nice to get these guys back, and that'd be nice.
Well, I think that the other thing we need to do is you really have to build your system and your team in such a way that knowing injuries are going to happen, it can't be reliant on any one guy. You've got to have your backups in place. You got to have all of your lines contributing, because when one line is off, whether it's because you had to switch out someone due to an injury, or the synergy's not working on a given night, you got to have production from all four of your lines. You can't expect your top line guys to do it all. You can't expect your top six to do it all. You have to have contributions everywhere along the way. And I mean, same thing goes on the defensive side, but I think he's doing that. The other thing I really like is I've seen indicators, just the way that this coach talks about post-game analysis. When he does his post-game pressers, one of the things I saw the other day, and I was actually encouraged by it. Some people are saying, oh, they thought he was being negative. I didn't think he was being negative at all. I think he was being honest. And we've had enough of the BS, right? Like, when you're getting shown BS, and it's like, yeah, okay, I see it, I smell it, I know what it is. This guy comes out and says, hey, look, I think we had a strong first period. I think, the second period, I think we didn't skate as well as we should have or could have. And I'd like to work on our skating. I mean, something so basic. He wasn't even talking about execution of plays. He was just talking about foundation stuff. And he was talking about they didn't skate as well as they should have. And so, those are some of the things that you can tell that this guy is a back to basics guy. He's a keep it simple kind of a guy. And if you can't get those things right, it really doesn't matter as far as play execution or play, design. That doesn't even matter if you can't exercise the fundamentals. And so I like the fact that this coach is talking about the fundamentals and keeping it simple. And then allowing these guys to play their game in the way that they've been able to demonstrate superiority or demonstrate success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I did find that fascinating what he said about in the post game. Obviously the second period was not good by any stretch of imagination, but I just love that he came out and said, "Look, I didn't like the second period. I didn't think it was good at all, and I just, I didn't like it at all." So I thought that was very the way that you want to approach your team. You want to be honest with them. I felt the when I started feeling bad about Derek Malone, I started feeling like this. When Derek Malone would come out and he would say, "Well, we just need to skate better. We just need to do this better." I really want you to give me a predictive analysis of why this team is not doing what they're supposed to do. And when he came out there and he said, "Look, we're gonna play this way. We were skating wrong." I thought that was very interesting.
Well, did you notice, Joe, with Derek Lalonde? He would say the same thing every press conference. I mean, they should have just played it on replay, on repeat, because he'd say the same damn thing every single time. And I'm wondering, is this guy even watching the game? Does he even see?
Well, that's why I always compared him to Matt Patricia. I follow the Lions. Obviously, I do a podcast about the Lions too, Detroit Lions News podcast. But when I was doing the podcast, or I was doing the page that back then, Patricia would say all the same things. And I feel like as a coach, when you can't say what's on your mind, or you feel like one little, you say the same things, like we need to do this better. I want to hear real analysis from the coach. Like I remember when Babcock was coaching, right? He'd be like, we didn't start on time. I didn't like our preparation. I didn't like the way we're playing in the second period. We need to get more shots on net. Da, 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 da. And he would go into detail why they didn't play as well as he thought. And Bowman would do the same thing, And I just look at the coaches that I respect, and like AJ Hinch, he'll tell you exactly what's going on with that Tigers team. Be like, we didn't hit today. We were chasing the ball a little bit outside. So, whatever. Dan Campbell, he'll say the same thing. JB Bickerstaff for the Pistons. I mean, I like when coaches are honest with you and they say exactly what it is. And I feel like Todd McLennan is honest with his team. So whenever he says something, he tries to get them, look, you're doing this wrong. He's saying it to the public too, because he's trying to tell you, like, look, it could have went a different way. And there was a comment in the comment section from Zachary right here. He said, I went to a Senators game on Tuesday night, and I feel the Red Wings weren't playing as good as they did against the Jets. Also, Lyon getting hurt and Talbot letting 2 goals in on the Senators power plays. I think we got lucky. We won that game. Still a great game, but not the best win. And it kind of plays into the point that you made, Cindy. The point you made was he was honest with the people, where he was like, the second period sucked. It wasn't no good. And I thought that was the most interesting thing you can go about, because obviously the second period started with a little hitch. I mean, when you throw a goalie cold into the game, I think you're really just tempting to throw momentum off the wagon, because that goalie coming in cold is never a good thing. Never a good thing. And when I seen that, and in that second period, I was like, oh boy. I was like, well, how bad is the Lion hurt? That's the number one thing I thought about. But the second thing, I was like, poor Talbot. I didn't think he was going to start today. He didn't prep to start. Obviously you prep different as a starter than you do as a backup. And I just thought, man, that's a horrible way to go in the game. You're going in the game cold. The other teams have been playing one period, and you got to go in there and you got to figure out a way to win. And I can't throw that all on Talbot. I can't throw that all on the Red Wings, but I think that, that did really hitch their wagons, if you want to say. That second period, I think that was what really, throwing a new goalie in there. It's kind of a different. You're trying to just. I feel like when you throw a goalie in there, going into the second period, I feel like the team has to feel you out. Like, how are you playing? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
they're going to go more defensive, or they're going to try to like limit shots that are going to be, hard shots to go, that to face cold. And I felt like that was what was happening in the second period. And then the third period, I feel like they got Talbot into like a rhythm, and then they went on from there. So that was the main thing I looked at. But I was glad that McLennan was honest with us, because, he was saying they weren't skating. Well, maybe they weren't skating because of the goalie situation. They were trying to, figure that out. Is he having a good night? Is he ready to play? Because if he's not, then it changes the way you're playing defense and everything like that.
Well, and credit to this team and to the coaching staff for navigating through that and allowing Cam Talbot that opportunity to get settled in and then and make it and did very well in the third period. So good, good on them. That's what team play is all about, and that's why it's so important to have all of your cylinders firing, because when one goes down, you got to have that other engine up. Like if you're on a plane and you're coming in for approach and you lose an engine, you can lose one and land safely. You can't lose two and land safely. I mean, the, the chances of that happening go down dramatically, right? So, I mean, the thing is with these coaches, in terms of how they're communicating what they see going wrong on the ice, you see a huge difference. You see a tremendous contrast between Derek Lalonde and Todd McClellan.
Yep.
And where you were hearing, Derek Lalonde, he was singing the Aerosmith song, right? Same old song and dance. He was the same old song and dance every time you saw him. But Todd McClellan seems to really be engaged. And here's the thing. Here's what I would say to coaches who say the same old thing every single week, every single night, in and out, is that, all right, if you're saying the same thing and you're having the same problems, well, I'm looking to you, coach, to say, what the hell are you doing to fix it? Why are
Yep.
we seeing, we shouldn't be, if you were doing your job, I wouldn't be seeing the same problem over and over
Exactly.
and over again.
Exactly.
So so the fact that Todd McClellan, his approach is entirely different. I think his vision is completely different, and I think he's doing everything right. Now, has he made a couple mistakes? He'll probably say, "Ooh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to do that differently next time." But here's what I see. I'm seeing the same dynamic from the Red Wings as I'm seeing from the Lions, and that is there is respect for this coach, and these guys are playing for him. So even if he makes a mistake, they're playing to give him those wins, not only themselves, but they're playing to give him those wins, and they're also playing for each other. That is classic example of that is when Lucas Raymond gave up that pass to Dylan Larkin, so Dylan Larkin could
Glad,
score and
glad you
regain
said
some
something about that.
confidence.
Yeah, I'm glad you said something about that.
Classy.
That's classy,
I
and
mean,
it shows the team is in tune with each other.
that's right. And they're
You-
starting to play for each other. And credit to Lucas Raymond for understanding at his very young age
oh,
that was
exactly. Yeah.
something that his team needed.
Yeah. I mean, credit the young kid. I mean, he's still a young kid, no matter how you slice it. Uh, to know that, to pass that puck and get Dylan Larkin, a goal just to kind of get his psyche up. And I thought that was very, very great to see, because it shows me. I'll tell you what it shows me. It shows me that he's a unselfish player, and I love unselfish players, because that you're gonna do things for the team. You're not gonna do things for yourself. I like that, and I also like it because he recognized the young Lucas Raymond recognized that, like, let me give Larkin the goal. It doesn't matter to me. I'll get my goals however I slice it. And he passed the puck. And I thought, would they have done that a couple weeks ago? I don't think so.
I don't think they would have either, because you know why? Because they didn't believe, they weren't playing as a unit. They were playing for themselves, because they're like, screw it. We're not getting the coaching that we need. We're not getting the results. We're not going to go to the postseason the way it was looking. I think there was a hopelessness. And
Yep.
so when there's a hopelessness, you know what? When there's a hopelessness in the situation you're in, what do? Self-preservation.
Yep.
It's human
Exactly.
nature. Human
Yeah.
nature. So yes, they were playing for themselves. Now they're starting to see there's something bigger. Now they're starting to see we've got a shared goal, we've got a shared vision, and they're believing that they can do it. And that is so critical. And so I hope that this team will keep this momentum going through these next 3 games, take advantage of this golden opportunity. And if a new personnel comes into play or there's a change in personnel, I'm hoping, and I've got faith in Todd McClellan, that he'll be able to navigate that as well and make it a net positive for the Detroit Red Wings.
That's exactly what I'm going at. I think that this is a team that's heading in the right direction. And I think, winning 5 straight is something to behold. But the way that they kind of turn the whole car around has been the most intriguing thing, because they weren't playing good before Todd McClellan came in here, obviously, because there wouldn't have been a coaching change. But like you said about the hopelessness, I felt hopeless as a fan. And as a player, like, if I was a player in that locker room, I mean, you can't help to feel like this is like rock bottom, right? Because you're you're watching your team just cycle down the drain, and you're kind of like you're lifeless. And I thought Yzerman perfectly portrayed that when he was in his press conference and he was talking about why he made the coaching move, and he felt like that there was issues at hand that he didn't feel like the team was playing at the top of their game, and they were feeling a little bit lackadaisical. And I mean, when you're dealing with the type of stuff that the Red Wings were dealing with the low and late in that tenure, which I'm a little bit upset with Stevie Y that he waited to make a decision so late, to be honest. But I at the same time, I respect when he made the decision because it had to happen. Like, you couldn't go any further in this season without making a change at coaching, because they didn't look good. They weren't playing as a team, and we kept hearing the same answers from in the press conferences, and we seen the same team every night. Like, nothing was changing, and I felt at the end of Derek Loan, I felt like he was less likely to give the young kids a chance at the top line because he was trying to self-preservate himself, which you just accurately portrayed. Because when you get coaches in there, when the coaches are recognizing that they're going to get fired, happens all the time in the NFL, and you see it a lot in the NHL sometimes too. But in the NFL, it's prevalent when a coach is knowing that he's going to get fired. Like, he knows he's on the last stand. He's going to go with those veteran players that are going to try to, they're going to do all the solid things, but they're never going to give you that bump up because you're afraid that they're going to make the rookies are going to make a mistake, or the young player is going to make a mistake. And that's exactly what I thought what Derek Loan was doing, because he got that tenure, and the later part of his tenure, and you're seeing him trot out, like, putting Fisher on the top line and everything. You're like, okay, enough is enough. Like, this has to stop.
Well, I'll tell you, the stupidest question that the sports media asked Steve Yzerman, and I'll tell you, props to Steve that he even continued to sit there, because I would have lost my ever-living mind, right?
I think I know what question you're going to say.
Question, Steve. So why did you make the coaching change now? What prompted you to make the coaching change at this time? What a stupid freaking question. What are you talking about? Have you looked at the standings? Have you seen the looks on these players' faces? Have you heard Mickey Redmond talk about their body language and how absolutely pitiful it is, and how everybody can see that they're, heading full steam ahead off a cliff? That's why he made the change, you idiot. That's the stupidest question I've ever heard. And I deal with the media all the time. And I've been asked some stupid questions. Honestly, I have. And you got to have patience to just get through it. But my God, that's one I would have lost my mind. I would have gotten up and left. There's no doubt about it. So props to Steve for sitting there and taking that. He earned every penny of his paycheck just to take that one stupid freaking question.
I think the media, though, in this town is kind of lackadaisical, to be honest. I mean, just read the room, guys. Like, why they make the change? I mean, it's clear and obvious why they made the change. Like, does it need any explanation why he made the change now? The team looks lifeless. And if you listen to the broadcast, like, when Mickey Redmond starts saying this team has bad body language, we've hit rock bottom. We really have. Because, if Mickey is going to say just what he's going to say, just they got to play this way. I've seen Mickey kind of, he'll protect the players. But when he says something like that, you're like, all right, Mickey's saying it. Ken Daniels is saying it. John Keating, God bless his heart, he's in the last year of his his career as a TV guy. And he's just like,
I'm going to miss him. I love Keats. I'm going to miss him.
Oh, man. You say they are good. And I'm like, oh, boy. I love John Keating. He's actually a really cool person. I hope that the Red Wings finish this out and get him in the playoffs, because I would love to see him one last hoorah in the playoffs. That's why I kind of like that. But, this team is heading in the right direction. I think me and you agree with that. And I think that the Todd fathers got this thing going. I can't wait to see where it goes from here, because I think the schedule is not as difficult as most think. And I think the way that they're playing right now, I think that they can beat anyone on any given night, like especially beating Winnipeg. That showed me everything that I need to know about this team moving forward. So obviously beating the Winnipeg Jets 4-2 and the Senators 3-2. I mean, Senators game wasn't no great shakes, but you've won 5 straight. You're 2 points away from a wild card spot. So
I'm all in, Joe.
It's a far cry
them to
from
win
where
the
you were
next 3.
last week. Well, last week we talked about this. You were 4 points out. Ottawa was right in the wild card. That's how quickly things change. And then if you go 2 weeks back, ooh, like you've made up a pretty incredible point differential in the playoff standings. I mean, look at you're at 40 points. You're at 30 points 2 weeks ago. So you're doing a damn good job there. So
you know what I'm going to do, Joe? And I think this will be a Red Alert exclusive. We got to have some merch, exclusive merch. I'm going to make some shirts that say "In Todd We Trust." Don't you love it?
I love it.
Todd Father and "In Todd We Trust."
We got to make a Todd Father shirt for sure.
Absolutely, because this guy has been the difference maker, and we actually have a real legitimate shot at the playoffs, and that's what I'm hoping to see. It's been a great podcast, Joe. I would stay here and talk Red Wings hockey with you all day, but I have a very important engagement because I'm very important.
We never know where you are. Again, for the people that are tuned in, Cindy's on the phone. She is the co-host of the Red Alert podcast. That is Cindy right there. But if you're listening on the Spotify or Apple, Cindy's on the phone. That's why it sounds like whatever it sounds like, because sometimes the phone really distorts it. Which we got to get you a mic. That's the number one thing. I said it before, but we get the last time I gave you the wrong.
Love me anymore,
I gave you the wrong mic. I gave you the wrong mic the last time. I'm a dummy.
Because I got the latest and greatest iPhone. I got to have, I got the latest and greatest. I got to have it.
I like the new iPhone.
I'm that special, Joe.
I got the new iPhone too, so we're good to go. But it's been a good podcast. We talked a lot about the Red Wings. Obviously, people are going to love it because, usually we don't go over this hour and a half because that's for certain episodes. But it's been a great podcast. Thanks to all the people that tuned in. We, comments were a little bit scarce today, but it is what it is. I think, it's when we do it sometimes that could be the case. But we'll see you guys on the next Red Alert podcast. We talk more Detroit Red Wings hockey here on the Red Alert podcast. And as always, go to our socials. We'll put them on the screen for you guys. You can go to the Red Alert podcast. You go to my Twitter at Detroit Joe Chap, Instagram at Red Alert _podcast. And then TikTok, I do some TikToks too, but I haven't been good at TikTok lately, so I got to change that. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. The next podcast, we talk more Detroit Red Wings hockey here on the Jace Sports and the Red Alert podcast.
We'll see you then.